Have you ever paused, looked around, and felt like the life you're living doesn't quite belong to you? Like you're walking through days that feel scripted by someone else, your parents, your teachers, society at large, and every move you make is expected, not chosen. It's as if your entire existence has been choreographed and you're merely performing, rather than truly living. Deep inside, something stirs, a quiet, persistent whisper that says, "This isn't who I really am." That whisper, it's not a mistake. It's the beginning of awakening, and you're not alone in feeling it. Carl Jung, one of the most profound thinkers of the 20th century, believed that this sense of disconnection isn't accidental. In fact, he saw it as a vital clue and in a signal alerting you that you've strayed too far from your authentic self. Most people, Jung observed, live their whole lives without ever truly knowing who they are. They wear masks, perform roles, and meet expectations, believing that these manufactured identities are all they are meant to be. They go to their graves without having ever uncovered the soul behind the social mask. Let that sink in. And now, the question echoes back to you. Is this your story too? What if the self you've come to know, the one that makes decisions, has desires, opinions, beliefs, is not entirely your own? How much of what you think as you was given to you? How much was shaped, molded, or even forced upon you by others since childhood? We are taught early on to conform, to behave, to adapt. We learn what to say, how to act, and even what to feel to be accepted. And so we build what Jung called a persona, an identity that serves as our public mask. This mask isn't inherently wrong. It helps us interact with others and survive in social settings. But the danger comes when the mask becomes permanent, when we begin to believe that the mask is who we are. Slowly but surely, our real self fades, buried beneath layers of approval-seeking behavior and emotional suppression. Have you ever caught yourself smiling while dying inside? Have you said yes when your entire being screamed no? Have you stayed silent when you desperately wanted to speak your truth? These are signs that the persona is no longer a tool you use. It has become your prison. A prison made of politeness, strength, composure, and compliance. And the cost of this prison? Anguish, emptiness, a quiet sense of loss that grows louder with time. You may achieve things, earn praise, even live what seems to be a successful life, yet still feel as though something crucial is missing. That's because your soul can't thrive. Behind a mask, you can win approval and still feel unseen. You can be admired and still feel like a stranger to yourself. So the real question is, are you ready to remember who you really are? This journey, this radical act of self-rediscovery starts by looking within. Beneath the roles, beneath the mask, beneath the conditioned responses and inherited beliefs lies your true self. But to meet this self, you must pass through the most feared and misunderstood territory of the psyche, the shadow. The shadow, in Jungian terms, is the part of you that you've pushed away, denied, or hidden. It holds everything you didn't want to see about yourself, your repressed emotions, your unspoken thoughts, your raw instincts, your vulnerabilities. But here's the paradox. The shadow doesn't just contain what's dark. It also holds your creative power, your authentic voice, your passion, your truth. And so, avoiding the shadow doesn't protect you, it weakens you. Everything you ignore gains power in the unconscious. Your repressed emotions begin to control you from the shadows. They show up in unexpected anger, irrational fears, and patterns you can't seem to break. But if you dare to face the shadow, if you stop running and start observing, it becomes a powerful ally. In the next block, we will explore how this shadow shapes your life, often without your awareness, and more importantly, how to begin the courageous process of integration that leads to true inner freedom. Before we continue, take a moment. If this message resonates with you, it means you're ready for transformation. So make sure to click the subscribe button, like this video, and turn on the notification bell. That way, you'll stay connected as we dive deeper into the truth that can change your life from the inside out. Let's go deeper. If the persona is the mask you wear to be accepted, then the shadow is the vault where you've hidden everything you were told wasn't acceptable. It contains the feelings you suppressed to fit in, the traits you denied to be loved, and the truths you silenced to avoid rejection. But here's the truth. What you suppress doesn't vanish, it waits. And while it waits, it grows stronger. In silence, in darkness. Have you ever found yourself overreacting and not knowing why? Felt sudden rage, jealousy, or fear that seemed disproportionate? That's the shadow at work. It surfaces when you least expect it, often when you're tired, vulnerable, or triggered. You're warned that unless we become aware of these hidden forces, they take control of our behavior. And here's where things get more interesting. Not everything in your shadow is negative. In fact, many of your most powerful gifts, your intuition, your sensitivity, your intensity, your raw truth, were likely buried because someone, somewhere, told you they were too much. Too emotional, too wild, too opinionated, too different. So you buried them to be accepted. But in doing so, you buried your light along with your darkness. This is the real tragedy of modern identity. People suppress not only what's destructive, but also what's most vibrant and alive within them. Your shadow isn't your enemy. It's your invitation to wholeness. Think of it like this. If the persona is the actor on the stage, the shadow is the script you forgot you wrote. It's there, influencing every move behind the curtain. Your choices, your habits, your relationships, even the way you talk to yourself, all are touched by this hidden force. When you repress anger, it doesn't go away. It shows up as passive aggression, resentment, or even illness. When you deny sadness, it doesn't disappear. It morphs into apathy or detachment. When you avoid conflict, it erupts in other areas, sometimes explosively. So how do you begin to reclaim these parts of yourself? It starts with courage. The courage to look within without judgment, to be radically honest about who you are and what you feel, to stop pretending, to get curious about your patterns, your triggers, and your emotional reactions. These are not flaws. They are signals. They are messengers trying to tell you something essential. You have not yet met all of who you are. Jung emphasized that healing begins the moment we allow the shadow to enter the light. Not to glorify it, not to act out every impulse, but to recognize it, understand it, and integrate it. Integration is the key word here. You are not just your persona. You are not just your shadow. You are something deeper, something whole. And this deeper truth is what Jung called the self. The self is the union of opposites, the merging of your outer mask with your inner truth, the harmony between who you appear to be and who you really are. But here's the catch. The self doesn't emerge on its own. It must be pursued. It must be chosen. It must be earned through self-awareness, introspection, and the difficult but rewarding path Jung called individuation. Individuation is not about becoming perfect. It's not about becoming better than anyone else. It's about becoming yourself fully, unapologetically, and truthfully. It means peeling back the layers of expectations, social roles, and family narratives to find the raw core of your being. This process isn't fast, and it's certainly not easy. It involves confronting uncomfortable truths, grieving old identities, letting go of illusions. It requires that you question everything you thought you were in order to discover what you truly are. But the reward for walking this path is beyond measure. Peace. Not the kind of peace that comes from avoidance, but the deep, soul-rooted peace that comes from alignment. So ask yourself, are you living your truth or someone else's idea of who you should be? Because until you know the answer, you cannot truly be free. We'll explore the path of individuation further in the next part, where we'll see how confronting the shadow and dismantling the persona opens the door to something far more powerful, your authentic life. A life not based on fear but on freedom, not on illusion but on integration. Before we move forward, I encourage you again, if this message is opening something in you, don't let it slip away. Click like, Subscribe and activate the notification bell so that you don't miss what's coming next. Because the path to self-discovery isn't a single moment, it's a series of awakenings. And this may just be the first of many. Now that we've explored the persona and the shadow, we arrive at the most mysterious and transformative concept in Jung's psychology, the self. If the persona is the mask you wear, and the shadow is everything you've repressed, then the self is what lies beyond both. It is the totality of who you are, not just the visible parts, but the entire spectrum of your being. It is your inner truth, your inner guide, your most authentic and sacred core. And finding the self is the journey of a lifetime. Jung called this journey individuation, the process of becoming whole. It's not about becoming better or more impressive or more acceptable to society. It's about becoming real. It's about unifying all parts of your psyche, the light and the dark, the conscious and the unconscious, the known and the hidden, into one integrated whole. But this path cannot be walked without intention. You cannot stumble into wholeness. You have to seek it. And to seek it, you must be willing to confront not just what you fear, but what you've forgotten. Your pain, your needs, your longings, your dreams, your potential, the parts of you that were silenced long ago in order to survive. This is not a comfortable process. It's messy, it's emotional, it's filled with uncertainty, and it demands something that most people run from: truth. Not the polite truth, not the socially acceptable truth, the raw, honest truth of who you are, stripped of performance. And here's what makes this path so rare: fear. Fear keeps people stuck in roles that no longer serve them. Fear tells you that if you stop performing, you'll be rejected. Fear convinces you that your value lies in being what others expect. And so, people cling to their masks. They avoid the shadow. They resist the self. But this resistance doesn't lead to peace. It leads to fragmentation. People begin to experience anxiety without cause, depression without understanding. They feel empty, even in the midst of achievement. They attract relationships that repeat the same painful cycles. They sabotage their success without knowing why. These are the symptoms of disconnection from the self. When you ignore who you really are, you don't become free, you become trapped. You become trapped in behaviors you can't explain, emotions you can't control, and patterns you can't break. But there's a way out. Jung's work reveals that the psyche is not your enemy, it's your teacher. Every emotion, every trigger, every recurring theme in your life is a message. And when you begin to listen, truly listen, you begin to decode the language of your own unconscious. You begin to understand why certain things affect you so deeply, why certain dreams haunt you, why certain desires won't go away. You realize that your inner world isn't random, it's sacred. And that's when the journey begins to shift. You stop seeing your shadow as shameful. You start seeing it as instructive. You stop fearing your anger, your grief, your envy, and begin to ask what they are trying to tell you. You start to reclaim the parts of you that you disowned. The sensitive one, the artist, the rebel, the protector, the dreamer, the parts that were never wrong, just misunderstood. And as you integrate these aspects, something incredible happens. You begin to feel whole, not perfect, not always happy, but real, grounded, alive, connected to yourself in a way that no external success or validation could ever provide. You begin to make decisions not out of fear but from intuition. You begin to set boundaries, speak your truth, and follow your own inner compass. And for the first time, your life starts to feel like your own. But there's another layer to this transformation, one that Jung emphasized deeply: the archetypes. In the next part, we will explore the powerful inner symbols that shape your thoughts, behaviors, and emotions. These aren't abstract ideas, they are psychological patterns that live inside you, inherited from the collective memory of humanity. Understanding them can help you see why you do what you do and how to finally take back control of your own story. So if you're ready to keep going, click subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and activate the notification bell so that this knowledge keeps reaching you exactly when you need it. Your journey isn't just a personal one, it's a universal one, and you're not alone in walking it. Let's now open the door to one of the most fascinating and transformative aspects of Carl Jung's work, the archetypes. These are not just characters in mythology or roles in fairy tales. They are living energies that reside within your unconscious mind, primordial blueprints that influence how you see the world, how you behave, how you love, how you suffer, and how you heal. According to Jung, these archetypes are part of the collective unconscious, a shared reservoir of symbolic knowledge inherited by all human beings. No matter where you were born or how you were raised, these patterns live inside you. They are not learned, they are remembered, passed down through generations of human experience, across cultures and centuries. That's why certain stories resonate so deeply, why myths, legends, and dreams often feel familiar, why characters in movies or books move you even when you can't explain why. It's because the archetypes are not outside you, they are within you, echoing through your thoughts, emotions, and instincts. Let's explore some of them. The hero is one of the most recognizable. It represents the part of you that seeks challenge, growth, and transformation. The hero faces adversity, battles fear, and ultimately changes through the journey. If you've ever overcome a personal crisis, stood up for yourself, or dared to chase something bigger than your comfort zone, you've touched this archetype. Then there's the caregiver, the nurturing force, the one who protects and supports. This archetype appears in parents, healers, teachers, and anyone who feels responsible for the well-being of others. But if this energy is overactivated and unbalanced, it can lead to self-neglect, people-pleasing, and emotional burnout. The rebel is another. This archetype challenges the status quo. It resists conformity and questions rules. If you've ever felt like you don't fit into the system or resisted doing something just because it's normal, that's the rebel rising. It can be liberating, but without integration, it can also become destructive. Then there's the wise one, the inner voice that seeks truth, insight, and depth. This archetype helps you pause, reflect, and understand. It's the force behind your intuition and your longing for meaning. But if disconnected from emotion, it can become detached or overly intellectual. There are many others: the lover, the innocent, the explorer, the ruler. Each has a shadow side and a light side. Each one plays a role in your inner story. And here's the key: these archetypes don't ask for your permission. They live and act within you, whether you are aware of them or not. That's why it's so important to recognize them. When you ignore them, they shape your life from the shadows. But when you acknowledge them, they become conscious allies in your path of individuation. For example, if you identify too strongly with the hero, you may feel you always have to be strong, never vulnerable. You might suppress your need for rest, love, or help. If you live only through the caregiver, you may lose yourself in others' needs, never tending to your own soul. The goal is not to eliminate these energies, but to balance them, to honor the wisdom of each while refusing to be dominated by any. So how do these archetypes appear? Look at your dreams. Look at the patterns in your relationships. Look at the roles you find yourself playing over and over. Do you always feel responsible for everyone else? Do you fear being seen as weak? Do you crave adventure, but feel trapped by routine? These are clues your psyche speaking in symbols, asking for integration. And when you start paying attention, you start to wake up. You begin to understand why you keep repeating the same cycles. Why certain people trigger you. Why certain longings never leave. You see that these forces are not random, they are parts of you calling for attention, healing, and alignment. But now comes the most important insight. If you do not become aware of these archetypes, they will control you. They will guide your decisions, shape your identity, and even sabotage your growth, all without your awareness. But once you shine light on them, once you listen and reflect, something extraordinary happens. You gain the power to rewrite your story, You stop being a puppet of inherited patterns and start becoming the conscious author of your life. And this is what separates those who evolve from those who remain stuck. Awareness is the threshold. Integration is the path. Wholeness is the destination. In the next part of our journey, we'll explore what happens when a person resists this path, when they reject the shadow, ignore the archetypes, and refuse to question the persona. What does it cost to live disconnected from yourself? If you're finding value in this journey, remember to subscribe, like, and tap the notification bell. Your presence here matters. This knowledge is not just to be consumed, it's meant to be lived. Let's now consider the consequences of ignoring everything we've explored so far. What happens to a person who refuses to look inward, who hides from the shadow, clings to the persona, and never questions the archetypes shaping their destiny? Carl Jung was unequivocal. Avoiding the process of individuation doesn't keep you safe, it keeps you stuck. It creates a quiet kind of suffering, one that can persist for years, even decades, without being properly understood. It shows up as anxiety, depression, emptiness, chronic dissatisfaction, and a haunting sense that something essential is missing. Even when everything on the surface appears just fine. You might have the job, the partner, the house, the recognition, but inside, something still aches. Why? Because living a life disconnected from your true nature creates an inner fracture, a split between the person you appear to be and the one you really are. And the wider the gap grows, the deeper your inner unrest becomes. The world is filled with people who are functioning but not thriving, achieving but not feeling, smiling but not living. These are symptoms of non-individuation. Over time, this disconnection manifests in many ways. It may appear as burnout because you've been striving for goals that were never truly yours. It may look like relationship breakdowns because your connections were based on roles, not authenticity. It may surface as sudden emotional outbursts because your shadow can't stay buried forever. Or worse, it may show up as a quiet resignation. You stop asking questions. You stop seeking. You settle. You shrink. You start going through life on autopilot, fulfilling obligations but forgetting your soul. This silent despair is not rare. It is everywhere. You see it in people who seem successful on the outside, but whose eyes are tired. You feel it in conversations that lack depth. You hear it in the way people talk about their dreams as if they belong to someone else. And when this inner fracture is ignored long enough, the psyche fights back. It sends distress signals, psychosomatic illnesses, recurring nightmares, chronic fatigue, addiction, numbness. These are not just physical or psychological conditions, they are cries from the unconscious. You are not living your truth. So many people spend their lives treating symptoms without ever addressing the root cause, disconnection from the self. And then there's resentment, the most corrosive of all consequences. When you live a life shaped by others' expectations, a part of you begins to rebel. But instead of turning inward, that resentment often turns outward. You begin to blame others, your family, the system, your past, or even the world itself. In some cases, it turns inward into self-loathing, depression, or self-sabotage. You begin to destroy your own potential without even knowing why. This is not weakness. It's not failure. It's a deep, unresolved inner conflict, one that can only be healed by finally meeting yourself. Jung warned us, if you do not confront your unconscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. But here's the hope. It's never too late to begin. No matter how far from yourself you've wandered, no matter how long you've been wearing a mask, no matter how deep your wounds, the path back to your essence is always open. It begins not with blame, but with responsibility. Not with shame, but with courage. Because what you repress can be reclaimed. What you avoid can be faced. And what feels lost can be remembered. In the final part of this video, we will bring it all together. What does it really mean to live from the self? What does life feel like when you're no longer hiding, no longer pretending, no longer afraid to be who you are? If this message is helping you see things more clearly, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and tap the notification bell. This journey doesn't end here. It unfolds with each insight, each question, and each choice to be honest with yourself. Now we arrive at the heart of it all, the culmination of this inner journey. After all the layers, masks, wounds, and revelations, what does it truly mean to live as your authentic self? Contrary to what many believe, this isn't a dramatic transformation where you wake up one day with everything figured out. It's not a sudden enlightenment or a magical moment of clarity. It is a process, subtle, quiet, persistent, a slow unraveling of illusions, a gentle return to center. Living from the self doesn't mean you become perfect. It doesn't mean you never feel fear, doubt, or pain again. What it means is that you stop running from those things. You stop pretending. You stop hiding. You begin to meet each moment with honesty and presence. You speak with sincerity. You love with openness. You act with intention. You stop doing things just to be accepted. You stop saying yes when your soul says no. You stop molding yourself into someone who fits the script because you finally realize you were never meant to follow one. You were meant to write your own. And the beauty of this shift is that it's deeply felt not just in your mind, but in your body, your emotions, your relationships, your energy. You feel lighter, more connected, more grounded. Decisions become clearer. Boundaries become easier. Joy becomes more accessible, not because life gets easier, but because you become more aligned. You begin to trust yourself, not because you're always right, but because you're no longer afraid to be wrong. You no longer measure your worth by others' approval, because your sense of identity no longer depends on external validation. And here's what surprises many people. When you live from yourself, you don't become isolated, you become more connected. Not in a superficial way, but in a real, meaningful, soul-to-soul kind of way. Because people are drawn to authenticity. They recognize it. They feel safe around it. Your presence becomes healing. Not because you preach or perform, but because you embody truth. That's the quiet power of individuation. It doesn't make you louder, it makes you realer. It doesn't elevate you above others. It anchors you within yourself. And from that place, you can finally begin to live, not merely exist. So I ask you one last time, are you ready? Are you ready to let go of who you were told to be? Are you willing to look at your pain, not with fear, but with curiosity? Are you open to discovering that your deepest wounds might hold the key to your greatest strength? If even part of you is saying yes, then take the next step. Keep reflecting, keep feeling, keep asking hard questions. Watch this video again if you need to. Share it with someone who might be walking this path too. And most importantly, stay committed to your own truth, because your truth matters. You matter. If this message touched something inside you, I invite you now, like this video, subscribe so that this journey continues to unfold for you, and turn on the notification bell so that the next step on your path finds you exactly when you need it. And before you go, leave a comment below. Tell me, have you ever felt like you were living someone else's life? What part of this message resonated with your soul the most? Your story may be the mirror someone else needs right now. Remember, the world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more authentic ones. And that journey begins with you.